Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zicree of Space Command. And we're going to talk about the Star Trek Discovery episode, The Sound of Thunder, which is a terrific Doug Jones episode. It's the first great Star Trek Discovery episode. And if you want to see another great Doug Jones performance, right below this video, there's going to be a description with a link to the Space Command pilot, which also stars Doug Jones. I have to say special guest star, but he's amazing in the role of Dorn Evans. So definitely check that out. It's got Robert Picardo, Mira Furlan, Bill Mumy, Bruce Boxleitner. 95% thumbs up, over 120,000 views. We're pushing toward 1 million, and you can be part of that. You can be one of those 1 million people. So just it's here right here on Mr. Sci-Fi. You can find it easily, and of course subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. Lots to talk about in the coming days. We'll be doing many videos relating to various and sundry things, but I just came back from my lovely lunch with writer-director Richard Kelly, who did Donnie Darko, which is a terrific film that I like very much, and this was the first time I've met him. Really a delightful person, and I think we'll be friends for life. So we'll see what happens. But I want to talk about this episode because this is the first episode that I've strongly liked. And I mean, I've been with Star Trek Discovery from season 1 through season 2, and you know, many of you have been watching my reviews of these Star Trek Discovery episodes, and you know that I've been less than entertained by the show, that it's filled with all sorts of plot holes and characters who stutter and start, and so forth. And but this episode really worked, and I was very impressed with it. I watched it on the treadmill at the gym while running, so that's pretty good that I can multitask that way. I can read books while walking, and I can watch television on my iPhone while running. Not bad. So but meanwhile, back to the episode. So this is the great Saru episode. Now let's talk a little bit about Star Trek's history, because some of you will know, but not all of you will know, that originally when the original Star Trek debuted, Captain Kirk, well, originally it was going to be Captain Pike with Jeffrey Hunter, but that pilot didn't sell. So it didn't sell the series. So then they shot a second pilot with William Shatner because Jeffrey Hunter didn't want to do any more Star Trek. And as a result, William Shatner became the star of Star Trek. Now, it was intended for him to be the main character. Spock was going to be a supporting character. But over the first season, it became very clear that Leonard Nimoy as Spock had a great appeal to the audience, and he became a huge hit. And so there became this great war behind the scenes between Shatner and Nimoy, trying to see who had the most lines, who had the most screen time, with Shatner, you know, pulling rank and being very difficult, but wanting to make sure that he stayed as the star of the show. But Mr. Spock really gained the limelight in many ways, and obviously the chemistry between Kirk, Spock, McCoy was vital, and it really worked. And therein hangs a tale. So Spock became one of the great iconic figures of science fiction and television. Now we move to what, 50 years later, and it's Star Trek Discovery. Now, from the first, I always thought Doug Jones was just spectacular and wonderful. He has been distinguishing himself in a lot of roles that fans knew him, but the larger public didn't. So you have him in, you know, as Abe Sapien in Hellboy, and as several of the creatures in Pan's Labyrinth, and as the creature in Shape of Water. But I think Star Trek Discovery is where he's really punched through to being a star, a TV star. And because he's been doing a lot of publicity for Star Trek Discovery, people are starting to recognize him and know what he looks like. And my own history with Doug is not long ago I wrote a book with Guillermo del Toro called Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which you can still get on Amazon and eBay and so forth. And so I was taking a deep dive into Guillermo's life and art and work and notebooks and all of that. And of course that included his work with Doug. And so I won the Saturn Award, and I saw this amazing guy in this amazing Victorian jacket, and he was a tall, thin guy, and I went to compliment him on the jacket, and it turned out it was Doug Jones, and he was an amazing-looking person without all the makeup on, and because usually he's behind a creature prosthetic. And so I invited him to lunch a few days later, and we hit it off, and I said, I'm going to write a role for you, and I created the role of Dorn Nevin for Doug. And one of the things I said to him when we were on set shooting it, and again, you can watch the entire first hour of the 2-hour pilot we've shot on Mr. Sci-Fi, and I urge you to do so. But one thing I said to Doug, because he was very nervous about the number of lines he had to do, and we were shooting very quickly, and I said, "Look, you've got this amazing soul, and our only job here is to share that soul with the audience. So don't worry about the lines. We can pick up, if you blow the lines, we can pick them up." We had an actor running lines with him, Ryan Husk, all day long. And Doug was letter perfect. He did a great job, and he was wonderful, and I think he's terrific as Dor Nevin. But so now we get to The Sound of Thunder, which is the new episode of Star Trek. There'll be another one tonight, which I'll review. But I really liked it. I thought it was a great job. Well written, well directed, wonderfully acted by Doug. And the basic, and again, just a few things. And there's spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, if you haven't watched the episode, cover your ears. But first of all, The Sound of Thunder is there's a very famous science fiction story called A Sound of Thunder, which is written by Ray Bradbury, and it's about time travelers who go back in time to kill a dinosaur, and things go awry, and as a result, the future is changed. It's one of the great time travel paradox stories, and just a genius piece of work, and it's been done in many different forms, including there's a book of Ray Bradbury's dinosaur stories, and it includes wonderful illustrations by William Stout, who also did the cover of the Space Command comic book, which we will soon be making available for sale, and you can have your own super cool copy of this super cool comic. We'll actually be publishing 4 issues and then bundling them together as a graphic novel. So very soon we'll be having a crowdfunding campaign for that. But to get back to the Doug Jones Star Trek Discovery episode, The Sound of Thunder, the basic plot, they've been setting up the Red Angel, who's been sending out these signals over the season. This mysterious character that Spock drew as a kid and has been drawing as an adult. Now they're trying to find Spock, and so forth. And so in this episode, the beam the Red Angel has sent out goes to Saru's home planet, and they go there, and Saru left the planet 18 years earlier, and in the previous episode as a the recent episode as a, he was subjected to the biological change that signals the end of life for his species, and instead he got through it, and his prey sensing devices, in terms of him being prey, prey species, fell off, and all of a sudden he's no longer afraid anymore. So this time, he didn't ever expect to go back to his home world, but this time he is in search of the Red Angel, and he sees his sister, and essentially the race that preys on the Kelpians and harvests them, the Ba'ul, who have more advanced technology, they demand that Saru be returned to them, that he belongs to them. And Saru basically turns himself into them to save his sister, to save his village. And one thing leads to another, and what we discover is that Saru's species, the Kelpians, are not a prey species, they're a predator species. And when they go through this change, they turn into predators. And 2,000 years earlier, they preyed on the Ba'ul, and the Ba'ul basically wiped out the predator phase of these creatures and set up a system where they believed they were a prey species and would submit to be killed with the harvesting that comes at all times for all Kelpians by the Ba'ul. And so in this episode, the Red Angel essentially intercedes to save them, and from now on they will know that they are not a prey species, they're a predator species. And Saru goes back to the Discovery, and his sister's going to spread the word of the new truth, and all of the Kelpians have been put through this transition now. And it was cool. I mean, Doug Jones' acting was spectacular as ever. His soulfulness really works, and the idea of him now as a predator rather than a prey species is very interesting, and hasn't been done before on Star Trek, as far as I know. And I liked it a lot. And the actress who played his sister was good, and there was a tension to the story, and you didn't know what was going to happen, and I liked it. And additionally, Doug. I mean, see, here's the thing. I personally think, Doug Jones is the star of Star Trek Discovery, and he's the most interesting character. He's the most compassionate character, the most ingenious character. He should be captain of the Discovery. That's what I'd like to see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I have my own theories about if I were doing Star Trek Discovery, like if they brought me aboard now, what I would do is I would play out the season because they were setting up Section 31 as sort of this Black Ops organization in Starfleet, and it looks like Captain Pike and the Discovery are going to come to loggerheads with Section 31, which is paranoid and evil, basically. If it were me, what I would do is I would end the season with or next season, they've been picked up for their third season, with a confrontation where, in order to defeat Section 31, Captain Pike basically sacrifices himself, and he's exposed to the radiation that leaves him in a wheelchair, where he's severely scarred, where all he can do is beep yes or no. And the cover story is, okay, he's defeated Section 31. Compassion will have the day, but the cover story will be that he was injured, saving some cadets, and so that becomes the official story, quote unquote. And then he's no longer able to command the Discovery, and Saru becomes captain. That would be the way I would lay it all out. And so then it would dovetail into where we know Captain Pike goes as a character. It's very interesting that it would be him up against Section 31, and we would end with Doug Jones as the captain, which he should be. And then the challenge in the show moving forward would be, he's a predator, and his natural instincts are going to be toward aggression and impulsiveness and a lack of empathy toward what he views as prey. And so he'll have to, whereas previously he had to overcome his fearfulness in situations, he'll now have to overcome his aggression. And so that's very interesting. For him to become a captain, he'll have to be listening to others and in various points avoiding his natural inclinations, and that's neat. And they gave him some very cool weaponry of biological weapons that he used in this episode, in The Sound of Thunder. And there were only 2 speed bumps in the episode where I went, uh-oh, look out, and they were minor. And so I'll mention them. One is where the Enterprise is being attacked by the Ba'ul, or potentially being attacked, so they say shields up, and then Doug beams over to the planet. And Star Trek technology, at least in the original show, as far as I remember, is that when they had shields up, they couldn't beam in or out. That was a plot point in many episodes where, beam us up, it's dangerous here. No, we can't, we're under attack. Okay, and our guys are stuck on the planet. So that was a hole. They've probably patched it somewhere, but God, who knows where. But it was necessary for the story to move forward. The other, and then there was the thing where they said, well, wait, we're doing our little, we've pulled up this data, and it indicates that the Ba'ul are the prey species and the Kelpians are the predators, and it went by so fast that it was like, I'll have to go back and watch it, because it was like, how'd they pull that conclusion out? Where, it was just very fast, and so I'll have to go back and see if they covered it adequately or if it was too much on the fly. But then the final thing that was the real kind of a groaner, but still, it's a great episode. I urge you to watch it. It's the best episode of Star Trek Discovery so far. The other groaner was at the end when Michael, greets, Doug on the transporter when he returns to Discovery, and she says, have you heard of Aeschylus? And he goes, yes, it's a playwright from ancient Greece, and he was born on this date and lived till this date. And she says, yes, well, there's this quotation he has about the heart and pain. And she starts the quotation, and then Saru finishes it. Okay, look, I wish I could tell the writers this. It's something that we writers know. Often, particularly beginning writers, will think that by quoting famous people, they'll be showing how smart they are and how wise they are. That's not what it does. It takes you out of the emotional moment of the story. And usually, anything like that is just showing how smart the writer thinks he or she is, and it takes you away from the moment. So the rule of thumb generally is, don't quote people, and certainly don't say, well, do you know who this is? No, I don't know who this is. Well, he was this guy, okay, or, and then it's like, well, and the fact that they both know who Aeschylus is, they both can quote the exact same passage from whatever play it was, wow. And then, but it's something they should have just stricken. And every now and then you'll violate that rule. For instance, and there's no real writer's rules, there's just guidelines, but like, for instance, in World Enough in Time, the Sulu episode that I co-wrote with Michael Reeves and directed and executive produced, which you can also see on Mr. Sci-Fi in its entirety, World Enough in Time, Star Trek New Voyages. In that, I ran a parallel of The Tempest, Shakespeare's The Tempest, and we quote The Tempest at various points. And that was because it's about Sulu is marooned and raises a daughter, and it's an analog for the Tempest with Prospero and his daughter, Miranda. So in that case, it seemed to work. Though again, I didn't overuse it. Played the moments. I played the emotion of the moments. But anyway, but again, with this episode of Star Trek Discovery, it's a minor thing, and overall, Doug Jones is just so great, and he knows how to play a creature makeup. He knows how to play that physicality wonderfully well, and we'll see where it goes. But I know, it's a friend of mine is a TV critic, and he mentioned that Doug was front and center doing interviews for Star Trek Discovery at the Critics Association marathon, where they interview all these people related to all these different TV shows. And so I think they're no doubt CBS All Access is having Doug be more front and center because they're recognizing that he's a fan favorite. And when I was at the Star Trek convention a while ago, the line for him signing went around the block, and so it was just he's really, everyone loves Doug. Everyone's rooting for him. Everyone says go. We can't wish him well enough. I mean, he deserves every bit of good things that are happening to him. So that's it for now. So make sure you watch the Space Command pilot. Make sure you watch World Enough in Time here on Mr. Sci-Fi. We're going to be doing the history of science fiction films shortly. We're going to be talking about the crowdfunding campaign for the Space Command comic. We're going to be talking about the crowdfunding campaign for shooting the rest of Space Command for Forgiveness. We've been having great pitch meetings at Netflix and Dust and E1 and tons of other places. So there'll be lots of great news coming soon. Feel free to call me or email me. We want to shoot a scene with Nichelle Nichols, but we'd have to sell 2 Space Command shares to be able to do that. That's $7,500 each. So if you'd like to do that, so we can shoot a scene with Nichelle Nichols, call me at 323-363-1259 or email me at markzickery@gmail.com. Or if you'd just like to pay $500 or $1,000, and then if we get a handful of people who can do that, or even 200, whatever, then we can maybe shoot the scene. I'd love to be able to do that. It's all written. We're in communication with her team, and Ethan McDowell is just waiting to get on an airplane and come out to LA so we can shoot this scene. I would love to be able to do that. I've known Nichelle since I was 10. I was 10 years old. I met her when I was 10. She gave me her own Star Trek scripts. She gave me a signed photo of herself as Uhura. This is when Star Trek was on. It was a dream come true, and I would love, all these years later, 50 years later and more, to be able to return the favor and do something wonderful for her, so all the fans who can't make it to conventions can see her in a scene in Space Command. So anyway, that's it. So thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you do. Your kind words are hugely appreciated, and you have no idea how much it means to me. So we'll talk soon. We have a spacesuit contest going. We have a Name That Creature contest that we'll get into very soon. And that's it for now. Talk to you all soon, guys. Bye.